What's up guys, it is Bucky and welcome to your 20th 3ds Max tutorial. So this tutorial is going to be on lights, and what lights are pretty much just like you would think they are, and they actually work a lot of they're pretty similar to cameras. So if you know how to work with the camera, you know how to work with the light for the most part. But I'm going to go over the different types of lights, the basics, and it's just going to be a real quick overview. We're not going to get into anything too deep or complicated for now. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create a plane, because we need something for our light to shine on. So go ahead and click plane and drag in your front view right there, and then you get a nice little wall for your light to shine on. So in order to create a light, what you need to do is in your create panel, go over here to this tab, and this is lights. And the first thing that you're going to see is you have a couple of different options. First, from this drop down list, you have photometric and standard. What you want to do is go to standard. Standard is pretty much just like the basic lights. Photometric, we're not going to be messing with them in this tutorial, but whenever you create a photometric light, it's going to give you a bunch of parameters based on real measurements that you would actually base a real light bulb on. Since we're just going to be working with computerized lights, we're going to be working with standard. Now aside from that, photometric and standard, we also have all of these options: target spot, target direct, omni, skylight. The only two I'm going to tell you about for now are omni and spotlights. Those are the two easiest and by far the two most common. Omni lights right here, these are like light bulbs. So if you put an omni light in your scene or animation, it's going to light up everything like a light bulb in every single direction. If you make a spotlight, what we're going to be doing in this tutorial, it only lights a certain part of your image or animation, object, whatever you want to call it. So if we want to only shine light on a certain object, we need a spotlight. So again, omni is like a light bulb, spot is just like a spotlight, like you would see. I don't know when they use spotlights anymore. Talent shows? High school talent shows maybe? I don't know, but we're about to find out. So go ahead and click on target spot, and in order to create one, go to your top view, and your plane is right here. Just click and drag somewhere right here. Now as you can see already that we have a little light on our screen right here, and this pretty much resembles a camera like we did before. We have our main light source right here, which is a spotlight, and our target is a square box, and we can move either of these around using the basic selection tools. So we can move this main camera around, we can also move this target around. So put your target somewhere close to the screen, it doesn't really matter where. And now go in your perspective view so we can view all these parameters. So zoom out a little bit. Actually, why not zoom in? Zoom out, zoom in, hey, just zoom somehow. So in order to change the light parameters, what you need to do, actually let's go ahead and render this just because you guys wanted to see it real quick. So that is our spotlight on the screen right here. So we took a light, shined it on the screen, it created a circle for now. So now anytime we want to mess with these parameters, what we need to do is select our light and then go in our modify tab, and we can see that all of these lights have parameters right here. So the most basic parameters are in the general parameters right here. From here you can turn your light on, off. You can also change it real quick to a spotlight or omni light, and look at this. Probably should click that. An omni light pretty much lights up everything. So that was your real quick tutorial on what omni light did. But let's change that back to spot, because we're going to be going over spot in this tutorial. The targeted, if you check this on and off, it takes away your target or puts it back. And this little number next to target, let's go ahead and leave that target on. This little number next to target, it is, lost my light, it is the distance that the camera is away from the target. So if you decrease that, then your target right here is going to move closer to your camera right here. So let's do that, and we'll decrease it so our target now moves closer to our camera. So we want it right about there, and now we can click it back on so we can see our target. So aside from that, we see this one button, exclude. Anytime we want to use this exclude button, go ahead and click that, and this brings up a little dialog. And what this allows you to do, if you want to exclude or include only a certain amount or certain objects in your animation, this is how you can do it. So we only have one object right here, and we want to include it, so we're not going to mess with it. But if we want to exclude it, what we'd have to do is put it over here, and anything in this box would not be illuminated or not be lit up. But don't mess with that most of the time. So those are the general parameters. Now let's move on to something a little more interesting. This intensity and color attenuation, this multiplier right here multiplies the light's intensity. So for example, if we put it to 2 or somewhere around 2, then when we rendered it out, the light would be 2 times as bright as before. So that's what the multiplier does. So aside from that, you also have, let's bring that multiplier down a little bit. Good enough. You also have this little white box right here. This is actually a color swatch. What this does is change the light's color. So if we double click that and we change the light to red or something, dark red, let's lighten that up a little bit. It's a bit too red for my taste. And now we go ahead and render this out. Now our light has changed from, I don't even remember what it was before, yellow or something. Now it's red. So now we got a red light. Now we got a red light. Now we got a red light. And anyways, moving on, aside from my song, what attenuation, I'm not going to mess with it from this tutorial because I hate messing with it, but I'm going to tell you what it is. Attenuation is how light fades over a distance. So if you want to make your light fade over a distance, then mess with attenuation, but you know what, I don't want to, so I'm not going to mess with it. And aside from these, I'm going to go over one more of the main ones, and that's spotlight parameters. The only two things you need to know here are really hotspot, which is, if you see me scroll right here, you see that there are actually 2 circles right here. The hotspot is pretty much the brightest spot in the middle, and the fall off is how it fades on its edges. So let me click this and render it, and you can see, well, you can't really see the hotspot because it's so bright in the middle, but maybe if I do this. Maybe if I brought my fall off way out and then brought my hotspot in a little bit and select the right scene, and still can't see it that good, but my light must be too intense or something. But the hotspot is where it's the brightest, and the fall off is pretty much the fading part or the gradient part. So once you mess with it a little bit, you'll figure it out. But for now, those are real quick basics on how to do that. So if you want to like expand your light over a distance or concentrate it on a certain point, then you're going to mess with hotspots and fall offs and all that good stuff. But for now, that is that for the light tutorial. Again, we don't really need to go over all these. These are pretty some advanced stuff that we don't use all that often, and I really want to get into animation, which I'm going to be going over next tutorial. So you know what, I don't got time for lights. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check out my next tutorial, and don't forget to subscribe. So thank you, and I'll see you next time. What's up guys, welcome to your 21st 3D Studio Max tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to be getting into the good stuff. I'm talking about animation. So we're going to be learning how to create movies, making things move around automatically, and what we're going to be going over is something called keyframe animation. Now, if you're familiar with movies or anything like that, you know that each kind of movie is made up just of a bunch of still pictures, and they're like slightly different from each other, and when you put them all together and look at them real quick, it creates the appearance of motion. So those still pictures are called frames, and what we're going to be working with is keyframes. Now what a keyframe is pretty much certain points of time that you have to define, and once you define a point like right here would be a keyframe, and then you could define another keyframe, let's say over here, in that once you define this one and that one, your ball would go in between those keyframes automatically and create the appearance of the ball moving from here to over here. So it's a lot easier done than said. Yeah, I said it. So let's get right into it. Now that I differentiated between frames and keyframes, we can figure out what this time slider means right here. You see 2 numbers on this time slider, and everything down here, by the way, this is all your animation buttons right here. So you see 0 and 100 right now. The 0 button is the current frame. You're at 0, you're at the beginning of your animation. Now there are 100 different frames in your animation, so it goes from all the way to 0 to 100 being the end. So that's how many frames, or that's the length of our animation that we have to work with. So now that we know that, let's go ahead and go over some of the main buttons. Now the main animation buttons you're probably familiar with are these ones over here. You can go to start, go to end, play, previous frame. You can go through them one by one. The most useful button right here is probably this one. This is the time configuration. For now I want to leave everything as default, but this is pretty much a frame rate, and frame rate means how many frames or how many pictures are in a second. Time display, don't mess with this. Playback, you might want to change if you want. What real time means is playback in real time and not lag or anything. Active viewport only means instead of playing your animation in all these viewports, only play in the active one, which saves a little bit on your computer. Loop means play it over and over again. This is a speed if you want to play it in slow motion or super fast or something. If you want to play it forward, reverse, or ping pong, which means back and forth. And this is all this other stuff is pretty obvious, start time, end time, and stuff like that. But for now, just leave it for default. I just want to show you what was in here and what to do with it. So now that we got that under control, I guess let's just go ahead and start animating something so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. Now there are two different types, or two different main ways you can animate, and that's auto key and set key. What auto key means is anytime you move this on the screen, it creates a key for you. What set key means, it gives you a little more control, and what this means is anytime you have set key selected and you want to make a keyframe, you have to click this little key right here and that'll set a key for you. So we're going to be we'll probably only be doing one in this tutorial, but we'll do both if we have time. So let's go ahead and click auto key and make sure you're at 0, 100. So now once you click auto key and move this anywhere on the screen, a key is created. And now if you go ahead and go to, I don't know, 15 and move this over here, you'll see that another key is created. So now we have a key between 0 and 15. So now let's go ahead and move this somewhere like to 55 and move it back here and up a little bit, and then we'll move it to 90 and we'll move it down over here, and we'll also move it down a little bit. So now our ball has 4 keyframes, one at 0, one at 15, one at 55, one at 90, and from 90 to 100 it doesn't do anything, it just stops for a little bit. So now we have 4 little checkpoints that our ball has to check in with. So it goes from, well, let's just play it and I'll show you. So now our ball goes from there to there to there to there, and it checks in with all those keyframes that we selected. So keyframes, as you can see, are pretty much points that we want the ball to hit in those periods of time. So now if we want to stop this, just go ahead and click pause. And now to get rid of our keyframes, for now let's just highlight them and delete them, and also delete this first one. And now let's work instead of auto key with set key. So go ahead and click set key, and now you can see that set key is red, and set key is a little bit different. Now let's go ahead and back to 0 and go ahead and move this ball to far away. Well, you can move anywhere you want, it doesn't really matter. Now anytime you click set key, you have to set your keyframes manually. So go ahead and at 0th frame, go ahead and hit this key button. That's going to set a keyframe. Now let's go ahead to something like 25 and move your ball forward a little bit and up. And now, as you can see, unlike auto key, it doesn't create a keyframe automatically. With set key, we have to click this set key again, and that's going to create a keyframe. So now let's go ahead and move to 50, and we can bring that a little bit closer and down, and why not move it over a little bit, and right about there, and we'll create another keyframe by hitting this key right here. and at 75, or actually we'll put it like 90 for the end of our animation, we'll just go ahead and move our ball over here and I don't know, up a little bit, and set our key. So now our ball goes from this corner to the middle to over here to over here. So if you play our animation, we get down, over there, and it, as you can see, just like the other one, it hits all of those keyframes that we determined. And keyframes are, again, they're just points or locations that the ball goes. And from keyframe to keyframe, all of the frames in between are filled in by what is expected of the ball to do. So for example, if you have one keyframe up here and you have one keyframe over here, then the computer knows, alright, between your keyframes I'm going to move the ball from here to here, and that's going to give the appearance of animation. So once you play around with it a little bit, you'll understand the basics of keyframing, and as long as you understand the basics of keyframing and what they are, animation is going to be a piece of cake. And if not, then keep watching my tutorials and you'll figure it out. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you'll understand at least the basics of basic animation. So again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another tutorial in 3DsMax. And in this tutorial we're going to be going over trajectories, and this is actually the 22nd tutorial. So in the last tutorial we learned some basic animation, learned what frames and keyframes were. And if you notice, whenever you made a keyframe, you saw the different colors on the keyframes, and by default they're red, green, and blue. And these colors actually, believe it or not, they mean something, just not random colors. The color on the keyframe symbolizes what is being animated. The position keys are red. Anytime you see green, it means rotation's being animated, and anytime you see blue, it means that the scale is being animated, or the size of it. And the parameter keys are going to be dark gray. And aside from a solid color, you can also have, like, if a color is red and green, that means that it's two different things are animated on the same exact key. So that gives you a little background of what the colors mean in keyframes. So let me go ahead, and now that we learned how to do a basic animation, animate something like position alone or size alone, let's go ahead and clear and get a new animation. And I can teach you what the heart of this tutorial is about, and that's trajectories. Now before I even go into that, let's go ahead and put new, open up a new one just in case you have anything in your thing already, and then go ahead and reset your workspace so we're all on the same page here. What a trajectory is it's pretty much a path that an animation can follow. So this is most commonly viewed as a spline, and that's whenever you view like video game creations, you see all those dots around, or when people are on a green screen and they have those dots on them for motion path. That's what this is. And what it is each node is going to show up as a frame, and the keyframes are going to be shown in white squares. So it's better actually if I just create one and you see what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and create pretty much any object you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and create a teapot real quick, because why not? And in your front viewport right here, just zoom out a little bit, and it's probably the best to get the select object tool. So just zoom out and put the object towards the bottom right of your screen. And then from here, what we need to do is, again, make sure you're in your front view. Create a line spline, and this spline is going to be the path that this object is going to follow. So let's go ahead and in our create shapes, splines. Make sure you drop down and click splines, excuse me, and then go ahead and click align. And you can pretty much make any path that you want. I'm going to make a loop because it's really easy when I demonstrate rotation just to see a loop. So pretty much click something that looks like that. It doesn't have to be exact, but anytime you want to deselect your spline, just go ahead and right click it like that. Now what you want to do is select your teapot, because what we're going to be telling 3DsMax is say alright, take this teapot and put it on this path, and that's the path that needs to be followed. So go ahead and select your teapot, and you'll know it's selected because it will turn white. And then go ahead and in your motion path right here, click trajectory. And again, like I said, a trajectory is the path that it's going to follow. So what you want to do with your teapot selected, or whatever shape you created, go ahead and press convert from. And what this means is, alright, I'm about to give you a path to follow. So now hover over your spline, which mine's named line 1, and click that. Now, as you see, the teapot automatically snaps to the beginning of the spline, and if you scroll along your time bar at the bottom, you see that it begins animating. And by default, it starts at the beginning of the spline, and by default, it ends at the end. So now, if you scroll, you can watch it play just like that. So go ahead, and what we want to do is we want this to actually rotate along with the spline. So when you scroll like this, you see it's staying the same thing the whole time. And so go ahead and press key filters, and we only want to select rotation. And this is going to say, alright, we can only edit rotation. So go ahead to somewhere like right here, and go ahead and click your select and rotate, and you can just go ahead and rotate it like that, and press set key. And scroll ahead a little further to the top of the loop, and go ahead and rotate this even more. Click on yellow, set key, set key. Now go ahead to about 3/4 away, and go ahead and rotate this even more, right about there, and go ahead and set another key. So now you see, whenever we look at it, it actually scrolls along with the path. So that's how you can animate two different types of animation at once. So that's all the time I have for this tutorial. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.